everybody. Zach Dittmars here for Fish Talk Magazine. Thanks again for tuning in to another installment of Live with Lenny. Tonight we're going to be talking about pre-spring fishing. We're talking yellow perch. We're talking blue catfish. We're talking redfish. So without much further ado, I'm going to bring on our angler-in-chief, Mr. Lenny Rudo. What's happening, Lenny?
Hey there, Zach. How are you?
I'm good. I'm stir crazy. I've been fishing one time in 2025, and that's just pathetic.
Ooh, I feel your pain, though. I feel your pain. I had a horrible January. Have gotten out recently. I got out the day before yesterday. But, man, the weather's made it really tough.
Absolutely. And you got a little ice fishing in, though, but
I did.
No monumental results out of that, right?
You know, and I was thinking about it, Zach. I used to catch a lot of fish ice fishing. And then, like, I don't know, 7 years ago, I took this friend of mine ice fishing, and we didn't catch squat. And then ever since then, I haven't caught squat ice fishing. It's like I lost my ice fishing mojo. Can you guess who that was?
I caught a 1.5-inch bluegill. I think it was the world's smallest ice bluegill ever caught.
Yeah, that may well have been.
That was a IGFA for minimum records, you know. It's
ever
hard to catch a little fish, you know?
Ever since we went, it's ranged between nothing and pitiful.
We had a decent day up on Deep Creek several years back with some yellow perch. I think we even had it for dinner. So, you know, I mean, we weren't, you know.
As I recall, it was like 2 perch and a mini walleye.
I lost a big northern pike under the ice, you know.
Yes.
It was like you know, good 3 feet long, I think. I don't know. Anyway, well, hopefully, you know, weather's warming up, and that's why we're here. We're going to talk about all the upcoming opportunities. Before we go into that, why don't we run through a few announcements? You know, we want to thank our sponsors. We got CCA that helps us out with these programming, and also Yamaha and Yamaha Rightwaters. And really, we like to promote this year-long event here on Live with Lenny. It's the Great Chesapeake Invasive Count. It's free to participate, and basically, if you're unfamiliar with it, you can go out fishing anywhere on any Chesapeake tributary, that's Maryland and Virginia, and any snakehead, blue cat, or flathead cat, which are tough to find, but they're around. You just lay it on a ruler, submit it through an iAngler app, and then you get thrown into a drawing for monthly prizes. That's Engel coolers, you got Marucci sunglasses, all kinds of cool stuff. They were even giving away the Blackstone grills at one point. So unfortunately, I think all the ice kind of kept people off the water. So we have no entries for this month, which means there's going to be tons of awesome prizes for February and March. And so this runs through March 31st, and I believe it's going to recycle and restart for the next year. So be sure to check that out.
And you can enter at any time to win those goodies. On the one hand, I'm kind of shocked that there was like nobody in January who did it, but on the other hand, I'm kind of not, you know, just like we're saying about the weather and everything else. What other events we got coming up, Zach? What else do we want to make sure folks know about?
Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff coming up.
It's spring, stuff's starting to happen.
Yeah, so we got all kinds of stuff listed for you at fishtalkmag.com/calendar. I want to bring that up for you. So just show you what we got going. Next weekend, we have the Pasadena Sport Fishing Expo. That's huge. That's up at, is that still at Kurtz Beach, I think? Is that right?
It is, and I'll be there.
Awesome. So Angler-in-Chief, come, come talk Lenny's ear off and steal all his secrets. Not that he's not going to give them all away tonight, right? Also, check out that Anglers Night Out. It's going to be awesome. We're actually going to be doing a treble hooks for inline single swap out. So bring your lures or bring a lure, and we're going to, you know, show you how to do it. You're going to get some free inline hooks, and we're going to have split ring pliers in there and everything, and show you how easy it is to just make that lure a little bit easier on the fish. Some other, you know, anyway, tons of awesome stuff coming out. There's a Southern CCA Southern Maryland Banquet is coming up as well. Anyway, check that out. We have all kinds of great stuff. We add these pretty much on a weekly basis, so I'd like to keep it up to date. If you have any upcoming events, shoot us a line and we'll make sure to add it.
And you know, Zach, I love it that we can give away stuff to folks on Live with Lenny. And I'm so disappointed that we don't get to do that tonight, but we're still going to do it. We're still going to do it.
Awesome.
I'm going to have a special prize drawing, but I'm going to give you some ground rules for it, folks. Here's the deal. You've heard me talk before about CCA, about how it is, as recreational anglers, our only seat at the table when it comes to fisheries regulations, all the different changes and promulgated. We don't have the other organizations we used to have, and CCA is it. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a very much angler-oriented organization, like pretty much 100%. It's not a bunch of tree huggers. It's not a bunch of politicians. It is folks who are into fishing. They want to be able to go out and catch fish, the most fish possible. Pretty much all the events are organized around fishing. And we, as an angling community, really need to support it. These are the folks who are going to be there at the State House when they're talking about new rules and regulations, when they're talking about cutting our limits, cutting our days we're allowed to fish. We can't catch and release rockfish in April anymore in Maryland waters. You can't even go catch and release fishing. And it's when the water temps are such that you're doing the least harm to the fish. The release mortality rate is spectacularly low. I think at 1.5%, 1.7%, something like that. It's just spectacularly low. But somebody somewhere said, "Oh well, if we make it illegal to target rockfish during that time frame, we can save X number of fish on paper, and then we can, harvest more fish." Well, when things like this come up, it's CCA that's there at the table saying, "Wait a minute, a lot of folks like to catch and release fish. A lot of folks have a lot of fun during that time frame. The waters that are open to catch and release fishing are 20 miles from the nearest spawning grounds, so we're not interfering with spawning." We need these people at the table. There's nobody watching tonight. If you're into fishing enough to be watching tonight, you should be a member. There's nobody watching tonight that shouldn't be a member. I really want everyone to be a member. And I want to see several new memberships come in tonight. So here's what I'm willing to do. If you're not a member yet, if you join tonight, okay, and just put in the comments that you joined, I have a prize package for you, starting with this fine Savage Gear topwater bait, new in the box, awesome bait. This is a brand new lure. I don't think they're even in stores yet. This is a Rev Mag Walker. Beautiful thing. Look at that guy. Imagine the topwater explosion on him. I have a Savage Gear Pulse Tail Mullet. Look at that guy. Yum. That's going to be in the prize pack. And I have a custom-made Fish Talk magazine whistle. Fulfills all the Coast Guard requirements for a sound-making device on your boat. And it has a little fire maker striker there, a compass on the back, and when you unscrew it, you've got a little section inside to put all your critical doodads. So people, join. Put in the comments that you joined tonight. You will get entered. At the end of the show, we'll do a drawing, and somebody is going to win this prize package. I'll mail it out to you. And on top of that, if you're already a member, you might be sitting there going, "Oh, well, no, I'm already a member." I'll tell you what. If you buy tickets to a future banquet tonight, and I think there's, Zach, one's coming up, right? Where was it?
Oh, we got Southern Maryland coming up, and then also Virginia. So one down in Southern Maryland, Calvert County, and then one over in Fairfax.
So if you buy a ticket to that tonight, that counts for an entry. Or if you join the pickerel tournament tonight, that'll count too. And the pickerel tournament, now that runs, December, January, February, runs through the end of the month. Right. So some folks have a head start on you. But you know what? When are the biggest pickerel of the tournament always caught?
The last week of the tournament.
Yeah, February.
as that water warms up and that,
yep.
That February warm.
It is always late February that it happens. And on top of that, there are categories for, perch. I think you were saying there's a perch bass pickerel stringer, something like that.
Perch bass crappie pickerel. So
okay,
so there's white or yellow perch. So you can pretty much fish for everything and participate.
There's a lot of ways to win. And I'll tell you something. I got so distracted by the rockfish earlier this year in December, and then I got so excited to go ice fishing again. I didn't join the tournament, and then I went fishing on the Pocomoke day before yesterday. Guess what I did before I left? I joined the tournament. because you never know. You could catch. There's also a prize for the single biggest fish. So you might catch the single biggest fish. So if you join the tournament tonight, become a CCA member, buy a ticket to the banquet, to any banquet, any of those things, you will be in the running for this prize packet. Now, come on, people. I want to see some new members. So please, it's a right thing to do anyway. And it's not expensive. How much is a membership, Zach?
It is $40, and that also includes a quarterly subscription to Tide Magazine, which has all the happenings of all the CCA chapters across the country.
This is the epitome of a no-brainer, people. Please join. If you haven't joined already, please join tonight. All right. Now,
I got a couple questions, Lenny. We got
questions.
We got Dwight asking. He lives in DC. Which chapter should he join? So I'm going to actually put up a link, and there is actually, if you go to the CCA website and go to the join page, you go to the About CCA, you click on About. It's got Find a Chapter. So we have chapters for Annapolis, Baltimore, Central Region, Greater Washington, Kent areas, and Southern Maryland. So lots of options there. And
Greater Washington.
So Greater Washington, I think, would that be? And I think we also have Christopher asking. He's not local, but he's trying to join CCA. So I think if you go to CCA just national, you can find look for the Find a Chapter option there as well.
And they are all over the place.
Right. I think it started down in Texas on the Gulf, Louisiana, yep. Florida's probably the biggest CCA outfit. And we're just trying to do our part here in Maryland.
Yeah, they're even all the way out in California. They are all over the place.
Oh, look, we got Dylan Waters working on the grindstone. The fish.
Oh, nice. Are up. Thank you, Dylan.
All right. And Wayne would like to add a book of their choice.
Oh, winner's choice. Thank you, Wayne. How awesome is that?
The smorgasbord of CCA join up prizes. So listen, we got three people that are interested in joining. So if you guys do join, just confirm that. I'm going to add your name to our Wheel of Destiny, and then at the end of the show, we're going to draw a winner. And check back if don't stick around for the whole program, because we want to make sure that we get your contact info, or you just email Lenny if you know. All right. And we had a hello. Lenny was down at the Mid-Atlantic Boat Show last weekend. Looks like you made some impression, made a friend. J. Mark Monson said, "Hey, Lenny, nice to meet you at the Virginia Beach Boat Show. Love fish talk. You fished Rudy Inlet in the rain today. Picked up 5 slot reds. That's awesome.
Nice. Way to go. That's awesome.
Wow.
5 slot reds in February. You got to love that. And red is on our list to talk about.
Rudy wants another fish talk. I'm not teasing you, Rudy, because this is like maybe the only one left in existence. So I took it out of the tackle box. I couldn't. I cast it a few times, maybe caught a fish, but I got to save it.
We got to convince Ian to make us another batch.
We got to convince the 20-year-old to come out of retirement.
Yes, those were custom made, and Ian did a great job with them. He was our intern at the time, and then he went off to college. And so the custom lure making kind of stopped.
He's majoring in fishing too, so I see him catching tons
that way. Yeah, it does seem like he's majoring in fishing.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's see what we got here.
And I should remind folks, pop those questions into the comments at any time. Zach will get them up on the screen. That's why we do this. We want to know what you want to know, and we're going to talk about multiple different pre-spring fisheries that we got going on right now tonight. Feel free to ask about any of them, or really anything else you're interested in.
Oh, you got a new fishing rod, didn't you, Lenny?
I did. Oh my gosh. Oh, Mike. Hey, how are you? That's right. So, okay, people, I never win anything, right? And I'm at the Virginia Beach Boat Show. I'm talking to the PSW SFA guys, the Peninsula Sport Fishers, and I wanted to talk to all the fishing clubs while I was down there, because I just don't get down to Virginia as much as I would like. And they've got a raffle going for this fishing rod. And I was like, yeah, I'll buy a ticket. And you know what happened? I won. Now, hold on. Don't go anywhere. Look at this beauty of a rod. I hope I can get the grip into the camera frame. Look at that. How gorgeous is that? It's got a flounder inlaid on the wooden hand. It's gorgeous. It's utterly gorgeous. And on top of that, it's a really nice fishing rod. Like, it's super light. It's got nice backbone. It's just the right length. I'm thinking sheep's head. I can't wait to use it on sheep's head. So thank you, Mike, for bringing that back up, man. It was fun being down there. We had a great boat show. It was really a good time.
And we got Eric tuning in, our fellow fish talker. As Lenny said, sign up for the pickerel tournament. You're automatically a CCA member. I'm not sure if that goes for the invasive count as well, but it might be an option when you register.
Anyway. I think it is because, of course, registering for the invasive count is free.
All right, we got. I think we got. Jay says he's going to join CCA Annapolis as soon as we drop. I guess to drop this program. So can we count on you, Jay? Let us know, and we will add you to the Wheel of Destiny to win.
Absolutely.
All right, we do have one question before we dive into the perch, catfish, redfish. Do you want to?
Yeah, pop it on up, man. Let's do it.
Jay says, "Yeah, welcome to CCA, Jay. Look forward to seeing you. Don't miss next week. I think it's next week. Yeah, I think it's next week. Next Thursday, we're doing the tackle swap at the West End Grill. All right, so this is off topic, but I think it's interesting. Do you know why the Maryland proposed raising the license fees for non-title and trout, but not the bay? That's, I think, the trout stamp went up 75% or 200% or something like that.
So it's specifically, and I'm not, my memory's not awesome. I might get the numbers wrong, but it was specifically because it hadn't gone up in like 20 years. Like, it had been forever. And they operate a lot of the programs at a deficit, a financial deficit, like the trout stocking. And really, the thought was just like, it was past time. And, it's not good for the DNR to be operating in a hole, any particular program. Many of their funds come from us. They come from the anglers. They come from the licenses. They come from the boat ramp fees, stuff like that. And I don't think we come close to covering all their expenses, but, we do need to contribute our fair share. And in that particular case, I think they just looked at how long it had been and said, wow, we're really need to catch up with the times. Now, the bay license, I don't know when the last time it was upped was, but it wasn't nearly as long. Guessing the cost of raising trout went up. Of course, no question. I mean, pretty much the cost of everything's gone up. And, you can only operate something like that at so much of a deficit before it, starts to hurt. So it doesn't surprise me they did it. Honestly, in my opinion, it's the right thing to do. When you go, 10 years without raising a fee on something like that, you kind of, you have to sort of keep up with inflation. And none of our fees are indexed with inflation. And every so often, they just got to give it the bump. All right. Should we dive into what is going on the fishing front?
Absolutely. And Lenny, we got a bunch of people that just tuned in. You want to do a quick recap on the giveaway?
Oh, man. You bet. We have got the topwater lure, the Savage Gear topwater, brand new, not even in the stores yet. We've got the Mulletron, right there. And we've got the amazing custom Fish Talk whistle with compass and fire striker and secret compartment in the back. And you can win all these goodies by joining CCA tonight. If you join CCA tonight, we'll do a drawing at the end of the show. We will pick a lucky winner. And on top of all that, unbeknownst to me, Wayne Young chimed in and said anyone joining CCA tonight is also going to win the book of their choice from his library of Where to Fishing books, the Reef books. If you read Fish Talk, you already know this is the guy when it comes to knowing where all the reef materials are. He seeks all this stuff out. He used to build it years ago with Mary, and he knows. So his books are awesome. So all that stuff, people, join CCA tonight. You are in the running.
Awesome. And if you're already a member,
then, buy your banquet ticket or join the pickerel tournament.
Or tack on another year. You can always just add a year.
Sure. Absolutely. Right. That counts too.
And just confirm in the comments that you've done so. We'll add you to the wheel. And we're going to do the drawing here at about 6:55.
All right. So bring up slide number one.
Have you already joined or renewed?
Have you joined the pickerel tournament?
No, we don't need more people in the pickled tournament.
Just join the pickerel tournament. You'll be in.
You can add another year. You can just do the $40 and it just tax on a year. I'm good through 2026 right now. Does that work? I don't know. You're making the rules, boss.
It works for me. I'm making it up as I go along. All I want to do is I want to see more members coming into CCA tonight. That's what I care about. And the prizes are great. But like I said, truth of the matter is there's nobody out there watching this right now. If you fish enough to care enough to tune in tonight, you should be a CCA member. It benefits you in the long run, benefits all of us as a fishing community. They're our voice. That's the bottom line. They are our voice. Think about, if you work for a business, does that business belong to a trade organization? Of course it does. Do they have a seat at the table when the politicians start talking about how they're going to limit you? Of course they do. We need that representation. It's critical.
Right.
We get walked all over all the time.
Yes, that counts. He's talking about the banquet.
On the CCA dinner on Kent Island. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. You're qualified if you've
absolutely. All right.
All right, we got D-Train just joined.
Hey, thank you, D-Train. Yes.
Great group of guys. You got Darren down there. You got Eric Packard, Jesse Howe. Great group of guys.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
All right, give me slide number 1.
Let's dive in here.
And we're going to blast through it because it was just a week ago, but it's already ancient history with the way the weather has gone. This is a picture I took at Lake Marburg. A week ago, I was ice fishing. Pitifully, that flag never triggered. Not a single bite. Now, the week before that, I was doing it with one of my sons, David, and he actually hooked a nice fish and got it up just underneath the ice. And it was just like you were talking about, Zach, with that pike you had on, right under the ice. The dang thing came off the hook. Now, with the way the weather's changed, I doubt ice fishing will be in the cards in the near term, and probably for the rest of the year. Could happen again. We'll see what the weather does. Let's go ahead and flip to the next slide if we could, please. Gary proved that there were some people catching fish through the ice. As you can see, this was on the gunpowder or a trip of gunpowder. And so, yeah, you know what? When the water freezes over, you can still catch fish. All right, let's just keep on rolling through these slides because that's already kind of history at this point. Yellow perch. Yellow perch is a prime target for this time of year. And I just did an article not long ago in Fish Talk where I talked about the fact that when I was a kid, I caught most of my yellows in March. These days, I catch most of them in February. And they're not really on the run, but the run has changed. It's different than it used to be. I don't know if it's compressed or elongated in pulses. It doesn't seem to actually be earlier, but it does seem like a shorter time frame. And quite often, you miss. You have a lot more misses. And in March, it seems really tough to time it just right to get into the good action. But in February, you still can when you find them in the holes just downstream of those spawning grounds. Now, that's what I was looking for the day before yesterday on the Pocomoke. I did not get into them. We got crappie, we got bass, we got pickerel, we got catfish, lots of catfish, but not the yellows. And I got checked by a DNR officer at the ramp. Very, very polite guy, nice guy, good experience. And he said he had only seen one there so far. So it might be still just a little early. It has been colder this year than the last few years, so maybe that's why. But any day now, they're going to be busting loose. And if you can find one of those holes downstream of the spawning grounds, you can really get into them. You can kind of see in this picture, and Nick's chiming in, people don't necessarily realize just how good the fishery is. We've been lighting them up since January. Awesome. I wonder, Nick, if you're up north, we've gotten some good reports from the guys in the way north zone, the Susquehanna, that territory. I know they're on there. So that makes me curious. And we also got a good report this week from way down south, one of the creeks all the way down on the southern tip of the eastern shore. My favorite thing to do for these fish, and of course there are a lot of ways to do it. My favorite for these guys, you can just kind of make it out in the picture. That's a shad dart with a bull minnow on it. I like to just bounce that right along the bottom, keep it deep, keep it slow, right on the bottom, and they'll pick that up quite often. All right, why don't you go ahead and take us to the next slide, if you would, please, Zach. This yellow perch is in one of the mill ponds. Some of the mill ponds have really good populations of yellow perch. You can get them the same way. You can suspend that dart under a bobber. In my experience, the yellow perch like a big fat minnow. Now, later on, as it gets warmer and warmer and these fish begin to do their real spawning run, I find that grass shrimp becomes a better bait. Who knows why? But it seems like as the fish get farther and farther up to the spawning grounds, it gets later and later. It just seems like they like that shad dart with a grass shrimp on the back. So that makes a really good offering for them. But in these ponds, I generally find the minnow. The minnow, it's tough to beat a minnow. You can also catch them on some lures, small jigs. Herb's saying he caught yellow perch in the Nasawango on Tuesday. I hope I said that's a tough one to say there, Herb. And I think, Herb, you got some other fish too, right? You were talking bass, pickerel, crappie. They were kind of all biting. It's interesting, on the Pocomoke, we found the catfish more active than anything. They were chewing. And it was kind of slow on everything else. The crappie bite did really pick up as the tide dropped down. A lot of times that's going to be true on these tidal rivers. On a high tide, it can be a little tougher. You got to kind of seek out the fish on the flats. But on the low tide, when it gets really low, they really ball up in the channel, and you can really pound on them. All right, let's go ahead to the next slide, Zach.
Quick.
We got some questions. Pop them up.
We do. I think that was an old picture, so we're not calling you out. But in that picture, it looks like you're using a jig head with a minnow.
So okay.
So we have a couple questions there, and then
let's get into the whole DNR thing.
I'm trying to find the public comment. Is it still open for?
It is still open. Well, okay. It is still being, the rule is still being promulgated. So here's the deal. Everybody knows that the regulation for circle hooks never was intended to have anything to do with yellow perch. Now, I like our DNR. I think they try really hard. I think they usually do a good job on most things, but not on all things. This is one where, honestly, I got to say, they have not stepped up to the plate here, because way back when last year, I was told by several people that by the time perch came in this year, we would have a rule change, and it would be clearly spelled out that when you were yellow perch fishing, i.e. with a shad dart and a bull minnow, it was not going to be considered live lining. It wouldn't be a problem. This is the whole reason that half-inch hook gap rule was included in the rule in the first place, to exclude these different fisheries. Now, for whatever reason, somebody read the rule and said, oh, the way I read it, it applies, and we're going to enforce it. Never had been before. The rule has been in place, 5 years, 6 years. And it was just last year that some warnings got written out about it. Now, I was assured this would be clarified. Guess what? It's not. The rule is still being promulgated. The last I heard from someone at the DNR was that they hope to have it done by March, which in today's yellow perch fishery, in all honesty, is simply too late. They dropped the ball on this, people, is the best I can tell you. My opinion. I'm sure some folks there would point out that they have a lot of hoops to jump through, and, it's not as easy as snapping your fingers and changing a rule, but my opinion, this is a drop ball. This should have been done by now. Should have been done months ago. There was a whole year to mess with it. But that's the way it is. The rule still hasn't been changed. So by the letter of the law, if you are in a tidal area currently, and there's a minnow on the end of your line, the DNR officer can look at that and say, well, that's no good. It's got to be a circle hook. Now, if anybody knows where you can buy a shad dart with a circle hook, let me know. I've never seen one. You could take a pair of pliers and bend it into a circle. I'm not sure that would count. I don't even know. The bottom line is this will remain a question mark until they finalize that rule. And if you go to the website, it is still, I think, Zach, you were just looking at it, right?
Yeah, put it in the comments for everyone. And,
oh, great. Thank you.
And it's that comment period is open through the 10th, so we're kind of winding down on that.
So there's still a comment period open. It's not, they haven't even closed the comment period. Is
So
that's right?
closed on the 10th, and there's the link. It's a little bit.ly, but the actual link is in the comments on this.
So I think that opened for comments, what, like last June? Maybe? I'm guessing.
I think
I'm guessing here. I remember doing my comment on it months and months and months ago.
This one was just posted on the 15th of January. This is the new one where it's about the size of the bait. So basically minnows will be, it's like 3 inches or less. You don't need a circle hook. That eliminates spot or white perch because, I mean, you know.
Right. They're bigger than 3 inches. This, you know, again, my opinion, I don't want to bang on the DNR. I like a lot of those guys. I think they try really hard, but this really should have been nailed down before now. My opinion. All right. Why don't we go ahead to the next one?
Sure.
You got more questions in there?
Other comments jumped in while we were chatting. Herb says you mostly caught crappie and a couple nice pickerel down there in the Nassauingo, along with bass and perch. And Nick chimed in. He's in the Susky. I believe Nick's the father of a master angler, Lucy. She sends us all kinds of.
Oh, that's Lucy's dad. No way. Cool. Hey, Nick. On the Susky. Yeah. Yeah, we've been getting some good reports from up there. So that's, you know, that could be a destination. I don't know. Maybe I should have gone there instead of the east side.
Yeah, and we did get someone had some issues joining, so I just want to address that real quick.
Had an issue joining CCA.
Yeah, so Joe saying he had trouble joining. So Joe, I'm going to put up in the comments here, I'm going to put the contact page for CCA. Since you are trying to join, you are added to the Wheel of Destiny for the prizes. Thank you for trying. That sounds a little odd, so I would just shoot them a line, and we're going to assume that you are joining up. And that just sounds a little weird, so I wouldn't go through with that personally.
That's a surprise. It's usually super easy. It's like click, click, you know, you're done. Don't know what happened there.
All right.
Take me over to the next species, Zach.
Fred says he's using circle hooks with the bead right above the hook.
I
actually got some 1/0 bear paw circle hooks. They work great.
Yeah, if you're doing bear hooks, you absolutely can get the little circle hooks. If you're doing a shad dart, different story.
Not so much. So
well, personally, I would say, who in their right mind would say fishing a shad dart is live lining, right?
Well, because you got a live minnow on there. I mean, like
live lining. Live lining is a hook letting the fish swim around live. That's live lining.
This doesn't apply to non-tidal. So if you're in a
yes
a mill pond, you can still.
Oh my God! Enough controversy. Give me the next slide, please. Why didn't I see this coming? I should have known. Catfish, much less controversial. Oh no, wait a sec. They're controversial too. At least the controversy is on what they're doing to the environment, not on taking them home. Blue cats. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Nick. Nick is a master angler too. But Lucy beat you to it. And we will never let you forget that. She got it first, right? If I remember right. And even from Ohio, can't wait to back to Maryland. Yeah, man. Come on back. Come on, Simon. So the blue cats are a great winter fishery. I mean, they're a prime target. They bite through the winter. They're not terribly hard to find. The blue cats are really good eating, believe it or not. I was never a catfish guy. And then I went out on the Potomac and we got a pile of blue cats, took them home. Man, they were really good. They're different than most of the other catfish. And they're in pretty much, not entirely, but pretty much all the tributaries at this point in really good numbers. Those guys up on the Susquehanna catch plenty of them. Pocomoke, plenty of them. Not as big, but the numbers are there. Pretty much everywhere you're going to go. Eat them all, please. Yes, please. If you're not going to eat them, actually, you can make fertilizer out of them for your garden that is really good fertilizer. Or if you feel like it, you can take them to a food bank, right? I know you've done that, Zach, right? Haven't you taken blue cats to a food bank?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's there's no reason to put these things back in the water. One of the reasons why the perch are getting harder to catch and rockfish are, harder to find in the small sizes may be because these blue cats are eating machines. They are. And that totally makes them a great target for this fishery. February is an absolutely prime month. Pretty darn easy to target them. All you got to do is put cut bait on the bottom. If you're fishing minnows, they'll hit the minnows. I think I caught 5 of them on the Pocomoke the other day, and that was on a shad dart with a minnow. Like, I wasn't trying to target catfish. But these fish are a little more aggressive than your average catfish. Go ahead and take us to the next slide, if you would, please. They're real predators. You can catch them from the bank. This was on the chop tank and just casting out from shore. So that's, another great thing about this fishery. You don't need a boat. In fact, oh shucks, who was pointing this out to me the other day? I think it was Adam, our another former intern, Adam Greenberg. You can catch these things in just beastly sizes right from the bank in DC. I think it's Fort Washington they cast out from, and you can catch a 50-pound fish. So pretty darn cool thing to fish for right about now. Go ahead and take us to the next slide, if you would, please, Zach. This was on the Potomac. You can't really see the rig here, but it's a very simple rig. You're just talking about a 6-aught circle hook, 3 feet of like 30, 40-pound test, then a swivel, and then an egg sinker up your main line, just to keep it down there. That's all that there is to it. You cast it out there, you let it sit, piece of cake. Now, we have seen some situations where the floater rig will actually do better than the rig on bottom. And in Fish for a Cure 2 years ago, Zach actually caught the biggest fish of all caught in the entire tournament. How big was it, Zach?
Like 34, I think.
34. And that fish, that was a blue cat that was caught on a floaty rig. So it was up off the bottom. And it's really interesting. These fish do come up off the bottom. Go ahead and take us to our next slide, please, if you would.
I just did. That's the fish.
There's the fish. Pretty funny. All right, you beat me to it. I had some fried catfish for lunch today. So yummy. Yeah, the blue cats are. I really enjoy eating them. They're really good blackened too. Awesome. D-Lab is saying he can never find the blue cats. Evasive instead of invasive. I want to know where you're fishing, man.
He was up near pools. He was saying it was tough finding them at pools last fall.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one zone that very well could be true.
I told him that Susquehanna was hot. Maybe the salinity pushed him up and into the rivers a little bit. The main stem of the bay was a little salty this year.
Yep, totally could be true. And I'll point out that in our reports a couple years ago and 3 years ago, we heard pools constantly. People were catching them on eeling for rockfish. But last year, I do not recall that level of reporting coming from that area. So definitely a different story. That could easily be why. Go ahead and take us to the next slide. I preempted my next slide. Marshy Hope and all the Nanticoke tribs are loaded with, yeah, absolutely. The east side, those tribs are filled with them. I preempted our next slide. I didn't mean to, but let's just go ahead and go to it real quick, Zach, and then we'll just keep going. Oh, Nick's saying everyone the Susky, they get bigger. 2 years ago, a 30 was big. Last year, a 40 was to 50. Stop being rare. Yeah, you know what, Nick? From the reports, I think that's dead on. And it's interesting because in these tribs, like Amped Up was just saying, they're smaller right now, but I'll bet in 5 years, you're seeing those 30, 40 pounders. It absolutely is how it goes. Caught one a few years ago on the Potomac at Fort Washington while bass fishing on a rattle trap. Wow. That's the first I've heard of that. That's pretty crazy. Yep, the packs all day long. Absolutely. I am actually going to fish the packs tomorrow, and I will have a catfish line out. That's going to happen. Nick's saying he's got him on a topwater kind of wingo. Wow. Okay, that's another new one to me. I have not seen that, but interesting. And Angler's Arsenal saying lots being caught on the packs between Jug Bay and Benedict. Excellent. I hope I get into them tomorrow. I will put that line out. I'm going to try for the blue cats. I'm going to try for the yellow perch. And I've done real well on some big crappie in the packs at this time of year. So I'm going to try that too. Martin, thank you for joining. Excellent. Excellent.
We got Will entered in too for getting a table of Caballeros.
Oh yeah, man, I love it. Get a table.
I didn't get everybody. Sorry, guys. We got Jay joined. We got about seven joined up. So CCA drive is going well. And
thank you, people.
Again, Lenny's going to give away a lore pack and a book from Wayne Young at the end of this program in about 20 or so minutes, depending on how things roll. So if you guys want to join up CCA, you get thrown to that drawing, which ends in about 20 minutes.
Thank you all. That is excellent. I love it. Right. I love it.
Constantine says, come down to the Nanacoke or Marshy Hope. Wear your arm out on Blue Cats. We caught over – I did Noah Bressman's Nanacoke River Derby last summer. I think we caught 600 in a morning. About 60 – from 60 anglers. So it was an average of like 10 fish per person or something. Maybe it was 300 fish, 600 pounds. It was a ton of catfish, all donated to a Haitian food bank, which is pretty cool.
Nice. That's excellent. That's exactly where those blue cats belong, man. You put them in someone's belly. We can eat our way out of this is like the next best thing.
All right. D-Lab was saying he was, up the Middle River Pools, Tolchester area, struggling to find them this summer or this fall as well. All right. And we got Mike says he's caught plenty of cats fishing for stripers from shore on Fort Eustis using jig heads.
Wow.
They'll pretty much eat everything. And like Packard, he loves the chatterbait, which is like.
Yeah, he does. Yep. I've heard Dylan talking about that too. He uses the chatterbaits, the jigs. They're aggressive fish. They really are.
Check that out. Constantine. I was fishing with Noah last weekend, actually.
Nice.
Great guy.
Nice.
All right. Okay.
All right. Slide us over the next slide. We're just going to blast through this one because I preempted myself. It's just one showing the hook and the rig. Midshore Fishing Club Flea Market, February 22nd. Okay. Excellent. Man, I wonder if I got anything going on the 22nd. I'd like to run over there. All right. So this was just, like I said, I preempted myself. It's just showing you the circle hook. This is a herring head. Any cut fish will work. Bunker works great. Gizzard shad works great. The minnow worked great. The one thing I do want to add in the great bait debate, there are some guys who make up some baits with Jello, and they swear by it, and they do real good with it. It's Jello mixed with something and food color and chicken, raw chicken, and they love it, and that's great. But I do want to point out that through time, I've tried a lot of different weird stuff for the catfish. You always hear about them eating weird stuff. Bottom line, I've always found that cut fish is really hard to beat. Like, it's just kind of really tough to beat. Catfish are used to eating it. So if you know how to make one of those Jello recipes and you believe in it, great, go for it. Otherwise, my suggestion would be just grab some fish, cut them up into chunks, use the head. They like the head. You can put the hook right through the eyes, makes a real good hook up. When you put the hook on the chunks, make real sure that a lot of that hook point is exposed. If you bury a circle hook deep in a bait, a lot of times when the fish mouths it, the point of the circle hook gets kind of covered up by the bait, and the bait just pulls out of the fish's mouth. They don't get it all the time. So just keep that in mind. All right, go right on ahead to the next one here.
We tried Rofo chicken. I don't think it worked for us.
We did try Rofo chicken. We did not get so many bites on it. I guess to some degree it's all going to depend. What a waste of good fried chicken. I know, I love Rofo. To some degree it's going to depend on just how active are the fish, how hungry are the fish. All right, we got a great description of the rig. All right, holy cow, hot dogs. So Zach, whenever you're ready, go ahead and let's roll the rigging. This is
sorry.
Oh wait, we got this one first? I thought we had the rigging first.
No. You ready?
I'm ready. Go for it, man.
I forgot about the video.
Oh, we don't have it?
What we're using today, this is a medium heavy ugly stick, 15-pound braided line, to either we've been using 2, 3, and 4 ounce slip sinkers, and then about a 3-foot leader to a 6/0 circle hook.
So there you go. There is the rigging for it. That was on the hot lick. That was, I think, 2 years ago or maybe 3 years ago. Captain Marcus put us on a ton of fish. Now go ahead to the next slide if you would. And this is going to show you the meter. I took this on the hot lick, leaning over his shoulder, because I was so surprised, because we were on just piles and piles and piles of blue cats. And the really interesting thing is, as you can see, they're not laying on bottom. These fish are not laying on bottom. They actually are up a little bit. So, you know, again, we get to, these are predators. They're not just scavengers. And the floaters are something to keep in mind. You want to have one of them out if you're not getting bites, because it may work a lot better than just letting that bait lay right down their own bottom. All right. Now for our next one, Zach, I'm going to spring a surprise on you. You ready for this? I got another surprise for tonight.
Ready.
I have a special guest. I do. Now, hold on a minute. Before you go to the next slide, let's see if we can get our special guest in here, because he knows more about this than I do. Hold on. Hold the phone. Here he comes. Live to you people. Go ahead and make him big, Zach. Make him big. Here comes David Ruda.
Hello.
So, everybody, I'm just going to lean over on you here. So, this is my son, Dave. He's been living down in Salisbury. He's going to Salisbury right now. He's still in school, and he is majoring in red fishing the Eastern Shore, at least as far as I can tell from all the pictures that I see. And I got to say, at this point, he's just progressed beyond me in this particular fishery. So we're going to let him talk about it. So, Zach, why don't you go ahead and bring up the next slide, and Dave's going to tell you what's going on and why it's applicable to this pre-spring fishery. There it is. Pretty wild shot. Go ahead, Dave. What do we got going on here?
All right. Perfect. So this is a shot of a big school of redfish, as you guys can see. Just have crushed a topwater lure in shallow water. And that is from mid-December from this year, but this is applicable to pre-spring and early spring, because any day where you have warm, sunny activity, especially there for multiple days above 50, 60 degrees. So I had a day last February in, I think, about the middle of the month, where it was over 60 for 3 days, and I headed south, and these reds are going to be pushed up shallow in grass flats in anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of water. A lot of times you can find them shallower, but the big schools will generally be in that 2 to 4 foot range. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I appreciate it. And it's a great time of year, arguably the best time of year, to find these big schools of slot size and just over slot redfish. And they're active, they're hungry on these warm days. The fish are fired up. They've been sitting in the cold. Their metabolism slowed down. They haven't been feeding a lot, and now it's warm. They've found some nice sunny areas they can go hang out in, and they're ready to eat. The main thing is you just got to find them. And the biggest thing is constantly just patrolling through the shallows and looking for schools of fish. Don't stop and pick apart areas like you might in the summer or early fall or later in the spring when the water is warmed up and the fish are a bit more spread out. They're generally not going to be sitting in singles or doubles or smaller schools on a point or something like that. They're going to be in those bigger masses, and you have the potential to find these bigger masses more than one. This is what you're going to want to focus on. You can sit on one of these schools for a long time once you find them.
And what are you throwing to them, Dave?
Anything. Honestly, they'll eat pretty much anything. A small paddle tail is the best, but you can catch them on topwater, jerk baits, mirror lures, twitch baits. They're going to eat if you put it in front of them. The biggest thing is approaching them correctly and making sure you don't spook them. Side scan is arguably the most effective tool you can have this time of year. A lot of times the fish are going to be pushed up in these shallows, but they won't often show themselves. They'll be sitting just under the surface. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And they'll be sitting up in the shallows like this, and they're not necessarily like going crazy. You know, they're looking for food, but they're not in enough water where their back's going to be exposed, or if they're, you know, face down, tail up, their tail might not be out of the water either. They're going to be, you know, an extra foot or two, and they can be chasing bait under the surface and all, you know, going crazy. You might never know it. That side scan is going to show you a school. It lets you detect an area up to about 200 feet out to the side that I can see with my hummingbird, and it's a game changer. I went down there a couple times last year in the winter, and I caught a couple fish, and I struggled, didn't have my unit working, and then I went back with the unit and was able to find schools and then stay on them once I found them, 10, 15 fish sometimes off of a single school. So that side scan is really helpful.
Now, Dave, I'm going to jump back in here because, Zach, would you please go ahead and take us to the next slide? And the next slide, I want you to talk a little bit, because we had a comment earlier from a guy who got 5 slots today in Rudy, which is pretty darn high.
Awesome.
So here's a, okay, well, shucks, this is a, no, that's the right one. So deeper water fish, still cold weather. Talk to us a little bit about what you do when it's, you know, let's say the clouds come over and the sun's covered up, so they're not going shallow, they're not warm, it's a little chillier. What are we doing now?
Yeah, so in that range, just look near the same areas they're going to be in when they're shallow. You know, say you've got a flat, you know, redfish like to hang out in when it's nice and warm, and there's a ledge next to it that pushes down to 6, 12 feet with a hole or an oyster bed on bottom, some rock piles. There's a dock, you know, in deep water. Any structure that's in that deeper water near those areas, you know, they like to hang out in are good. I did see we had a question about how far south and with live scope. How far south in the bay in the winter? Pretty dang far south. It depends on the year. And I haven't spent a ton of winters doing this. I'm not going to act like this, but I've done a bunch of research, and for what I've seen over the time I have done it is before the first big cold spell, you know, once it's getting, the water temps are getting below 40 degrees, they're not really going to push too far south. You can still catch them in the Rap, sometimes Potomac, some of your northern tributaries in the Virginia in the Bay, and very far south in Maryland. But once it gets colder than that, they're really going to start to push south. You'll still be catching them in Fisherman's, Lynn Haven, some of the tributaries north of there. Rudy's going crazy right now, like my dad said. But after that big cold snap, you got to go way south. And when they're deep, live scope would definitely be helpful. Yes, Bishop's Head is a great area to fish. That is an awesome spot. I have fished there a few times. But live scope would definitely be really helpful for the deeper fish. Take a fly rod for the reds. So that is something I've really been wanting to do. I don't have a fly rod. I want to get one and figure it out. I've never wanted to fly fish before, but there's something a little bit artistic about sight fishing for redfish, as dumb as that might sound to some of you guys. And I think doing it with a fly rod would just be really, really cool, make it a bit harder. But for the deeper water fish, it's kind of the same method. You just want to keep looking and hit areas that have really hard structure where they can group up and, you know, stay warm. They really travel in numbers, especially when it's cold like that. And those cold water days can be the best. Like, you can find a big school of fish, sit over them with a jig and hammer them one after the other. And if you're, you know, the fish are 15 feet down, you're probably not going to spook them unless you've caught half the school. So it's a great time of year to go out there and put up numbers. It's also a great time of year to handle fish respectfully and with care, because they don't like this cold. So if you're not going to be keeping fish, keep them in the water when you release them. Pop that hook out, just let them go.
I'm just going to jump in here and say, one of the things that impressed me the most when we were fishing on my boat this winter for the Trophy Rock was that David was actually putting his hands in this ice cold water to get the hooks out of these fish. He didn't hesitate, and then his hands were all wet, and we all know that's kind of a miserable thing on the boat. So here's what I would say. Bring a towel so you can dry your hands off afterwards. Maybe take off your gloves before you do this, and then grab the towel, dry your hands off, put your gloves back on. But if he can do it, I can do it. I'm going to start doing it. And if he can do it, you can do it, right? Now, I think that was we have one more redfish slide. Yes, which is sort of applicable. It's a little different. We can talk about it a little bit. But if you guys got any more questions on the redfish, get them up now. We're getting tight on time, but while we still got Dave in front of the camera, let's hit him while we can. And in the meantime, Zach, you can go ahead and put that slide up. And there's one other option for those of us who are farther north, and that's to go to the power plant. Warm water discharge will hold the fish. Now I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's tough. It's a very difficult bite. You got to upsize the jig head, which is why I chose this slide in particular, because that's a 1 ounce jig head. That's like minimal, but you really want to use the minimal size you can so you get that nice slow hop on the bottom. But at the same time, you got to reach the bottom. How far north have you seen the reds? At this time of year, the power plant, but exclusive of this time of year, I mean, shucks, this year they were in the Magathy and relatively decent. I mean, I got friends on the Magathy who were catching, several a day at times. So, this year they were really far north. In the South River, I was catching more redfish than rockfish through most of the summer. That you were too.
Yeah, it actually was like a really fun, surprising fishery. It's been okay, decent in the past, but this year I would say more often than not, we caught more redfish than we did rockfish.
Bless you, Zach. Yeah, it was super cool.
I really would like to comment on the heavy jig head usage for redfish because it's not ideal. But sometimes you got to do it in those heavy current situations. And something that'll really help when you're fishing those situations is fish 10-pound test. I know that might sound really light, but it makes a significant difference. And if you play your drag right, you'll be absolutely fine. I have caught 40-inch fish on 10-pound test. And it's not ideal for those big fish. But if you're trying to catch a slot redfish at the power plant or in an inlet where the current's ripping through so fast you can barely feel bottom, using 10-pound test instead of 30 will make a difference.
Now, we are going to move on from the reds in just a sec. We're just about out of time here. But before we do that, we brought up the power plant. We should, what?
Not use the comments that just went out.
We brought up the power plant. So we should also mention just a couple things about that as an option right now. I must say before going any further, any of the rockfish you catch right now, these are big breeders. They're on their way to spawn. These are fish that must be handled with care. They should stay in the water at all times when unhooking. Even if you want to keep your hands dry, what I normally do is I'll lip them and just hold them right at the water's edge, get the hook out. If you want to take a picture, slide one hand after the anal fin, use the other hand lipping it, just lift it up, smile for your picture, then put it right back in the water and let it go. This has got to be a quick procedure. But you want to go ahead and just talk briefly about that?
Yes, the last thing that I have to bring up for the kayak anglers especially, as it gets, and I'll also preface this with saying, don't go if you don't have the proper gear to fish in cold water safely, because none of us want to see any of us on the news. No fish is worth dying for. But if you have the proper safety gear, February and March are really good years to hit the tributaries that are legally open to fish. So February, everything's open. You can catch big striped bass pouring into the rivers. They'll just be starting to move in then, but you can catch fish. And then in March, the areas that are still open, that's your time to catch the fish of a lifetime from a kayak in the Maryland ports in the Chesapeake Bay. Again, stick to the legal areas, check the DNR map, and make sure you have the proper safety gear. But if you want to catch a big striped bass from the kayak, February and March are great months to do it. How? My favorite way to do it is by trolling plugs. My favorite plug is the Daiwa, not the SP Minnow, the Shimano Current Sniper. Daiwa SP Minnows are also really, really good. But basically, my best way of targeting them, and this is, I could talk about this for hours, but long story short, troll along the ledges, look for them on the side scan if you have it. If you don't, troll along the ledges, go up and down over the deep and the shallow areas. Sometimes this time of year, especially on a warm sunny day, they'll be up in the shallow water, 6 feet sometimes, 4, 3. But it really depends. Having electronics this time of year is super, super, super valuable. It can make the difference between catching something or catching nothing. A lot of times these days, I'm only catching a fish or two, and I'm spending a lot of time in the water on the kayak. So if you're going to be out there this time of year when it's cold, give yourself the best shot you have.
And before you do that, you're going to take that plug and
put on single hooks that are much larger than this, especially if it's March. You cannot fish trebles. I'm pretty sure even if they're crimped now, you have to have singles. But yeah, switch out all this. This includes top water, anything, any time of the year. We all know trebles are bad for the fish. And these fish are like these are kind of the last of the breeders we got. So we got to keep them safe.
And just for the record, earlier tonight, I knew what you were doing before when we started. Why don't you tell everybody what you've been doing for tomorrow?
I'm rigging to go fish for big striped bass on the bay. And I was trying out this new lure that we're trying out. I think it's the
it's one of these guys.
Yeah, the Savage Gear.
That you could win if you joined CCA tonight.
Yeah, great looking bait, but I took off that treble down there because it's not really necessary, honestly. And if a big fish eats this, they're going to slurp it. And the last thing we want to do is hurt any of these fish. I mean, we can't talk got to practice what we preach. We spend so much time talking about all these ways to keep the fish safe. Just do it, guys. You know, people are already arguing that we shouldn't be able to fish for these fish in the first place during this time of year. And if we don't treat them right, then they're absolutely right.
Yeah, let's not hand them ammunition.
Yeah. You know, treat them well, and we will have that 97+% mortality rate. I think it's higher than that in the winter.
In this temperature, it's about a 1.5 to 1.7 mortality rate.
Yeah, so I got that reversed.
Right.
But yeah.
So 98+% of the fish that you catch are just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to argue that with proper care and handling and getting rid of the trebles, that number is going to be lower. The only reason it is what it is because it's standard fishing practices that we've all been doing for all these years.
Yeah, I've caught my fair share of big fish this year, and I have not. I can very confidently say I have not killed a single one.
Yeah, they've swum way strong.
Yeah.
All right. I think it might be time to do our drawing. Thank you, David. Thanks, Dave, for jumping in. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, everyone.
All right, now it is 7:02, which tells me, Zach, that it is time for a lucky winner.
Yes, I believe so. So I'm going to give our audience a chance to.
We should do lightning round questions if there are any questions out there.
I think we're all caught up.
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, wait, I did have one question about catfish. So I'm going to actually put up the screen here. And if you have committed to joining CCA, if you we're all on the honor system here. Here's who we got. I'm going to make it big. We got Jay, D-Train, Robert, Dwight, Joe, Will, Martin, Mike, Bob, and Scott. So if you're not on the list, I'm going to give you a minute or two while Lenny answers a couple final questions, and we'll add you into the prize drawing.
Sounds good, Zach.
All right. So it was just about, you talked a little about how people make their own baits. We had a question about catfish, and it was about punch baits. I actually look at it. It looks like a punch bait's like a pail of a pre-made catfish muddle. So, yeah, what's your insights on that?
Yeah, the truth of the matter is I don't know. I can't say it's something I have real experience with. Like I was saying before, I've just sort of found that whenever I try something different and I've got a chunk of fish down there, they eat the chunk of fish, Zach, you may remember last spring, I did some catfishing on the South River. I know some guys were getting them. I was running around trying to figure out where the heck they were. And all I could get for bait, I didn't have any frozen fish. And both of the trips I did were like last minute. It was like 2 p.m. and I'm like, I can go now. So I didn't really have time to go and get bait. But I had shrimp in the freezer. What fish doesn't like to eat shrimp, right? The catfish should eat shrimp. So I grabbed some shrimp out of the freezer. Don't tell my wife. And did not catch much. I ended up, I think in the 2 trips I caught 1 catfish. So I wish I'd had some cut fish. And this spring, before I do that, I will do it again. I'm gonna grab some more. Rich is a good catfisherman. He sent us more than a few pictures of big catfish from up north. He's saying biologically, blue catfish are seeking amino acids. I think that's absolutely true, right? They have the chemoreceptors, their taste buds. It's hard to beat what's natural. It's sort of that old match the hatch, rule of law. And it's not always 100%. There are times when using something weird does better than matching the hatch. But just as a general rule, most of the time, matching the hatch is a good idea. Now he's saying it makes chicken and other bait successful. I can totally buy that. Chicken is a lot of guys like to use the chicken. The whole Jello thing is mystifying, but a lot of guys swear by it. So, and Rich is saying cut bunkers is good too. And it's interesting when you talk to the guys in Virginia, the vast majority of them will tell you gizzard shad, like it's got to be gizzard shad. But again, it's cut fish. It's cut fish. It's just often it's hard to beat.
All right, we got another CCA membership right here.
Nice, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, you ready to do the drawing?
Spin that wheel, man. Let's see what happens.
All right.
That is the slowest spinny wheel I have ever seen.
It'll get fast when I hit the button.
Okay. I was going to say, man, that's slow.
All right, here we go. Oh.
Whoa. D-Train.
No, Robert Ferris, it clicked over.
Oh, no. Sorry, D-Train. Robert Ferris. Okay, Robert,
Robert,
lucky winner.
Robert, you're still watching. If you're watching later, see if you won. Make sure you shoot your contact info to lenny@fishtalkmag.com. And
just send me an email. Give me your snail mail address. I'll mail these out. Wayne will send you the book. And D-Train, due to that near miss, if you can catch up with me at the Pasadena show or the Annapolis Sport Fishing show, I'll have a prize for you. Thank you all very much. I'm so stoked that we got a boost for CCA tonight. That is really important. It's something we should all be involved in. For those of you that are CCA members already, you've already, your banquet tickets already gone by, whatever, and so you weren't in this. Thank you for being members. Really, I mean it. It's just so important for us as a fishing community. We are a community, and CCA is our voice. So it's so important. Really, if I had it my way, when everybody got a fishing license, they would just automatically join CCA. Like it should happen. But, it is what it is. And we need to really support the organization as much as we possibly can and keep them going and get those memberships up. It's just critically important. Thank you all for tuning in. Zach, I know we're a little bit over time. We're not horrifically. We've been worse. A little bit. Not terrible. But I think we covered it all, did we not?
I think so.
All right. Well, thank you, Zach. As always, thank you for contributing your evening.
How do you join Fish Talk? I'm not sure what that means.
You go fishing and you're a fish talker, man. Read the magazine. Go to fishtalkmag.com.
Or maybe they're talking about CCA. I'm not sure.
I don't know. If you partake in Fish Talk, you are a fish talker. And if you are looking for CCA, there it is. It's always so hard to figure out which way things happen on the screen.
Hey, comments are still flying in. How do you... Anyway. I don't know what's going on. All right.
Well, that's great. Thank you for the comments, folks. Thank you for participating.
Absolutely. And if you weren't on earlier, Dylan Waters, our reports editor, chimed in and let us know the reports are online. So you can check those out, and they'll be emailed out. We'll put them on social media tomorrow around noon. But they are all updated for the week, and those come out every Friday by noon, like clockwork, for 7.5 years, I believe. So that's impressive.
We've never been late on the reports, but one time the email went out like 20 minutes late or something.
Yeah, but that's just,
and that was the email. The reports were there. And Dylan, I'm going to say, I gotta say, Dylan has done just a bang up job with him. Man, he is good. He digs up some intel and he gets it in, and it's all done very well. So we appreciate that too.
Awesome. We'll get out there and fish, and we'll see you next month. And,
thanks, everybody. Thank you, Zach.
Good night.